Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. I'm going to get right back to it with Stanley and Roger. They have stepped out there, committed a crime, shot at these people that shot at them, and all of these different types of things, right? And now, beyond being a juvenile delinquent, they're felons now. They're rolling with the big boys even though that they're juveniles, right? Because they've adopted this mindset that a lot of people out there don't seem to understand how it works, right? I want to go back a little bit and explain something to you. I want you to really fully understand what it is I'm trying to say so that your child or you yourself don't end up lost because of peer pressure. Remember Stanley, right? This fight, if you can call it that he was involved in the restroom wasn't even a fight. He pushed this boy slipped, hit his head. And because he wanted to be accepted, and I'm telling y'all this, I know this dude that I'm talking about. You feel me? I know him personally. Because he didn't want people to know that he really just pushed dude because he was scared, and then all the rest of it happened. That was the domino that fell. Because he didn't want them to know that now he has this reputation that he has to live up to. He gets thrown into a juvenile facility, and to learn to survive that wild environment, he learns to fight. And then he's introduced or meets somebody that believes in another lifestyle, gang lifestyle, and he learns, him and his friend that have bonded because they have a lot of things in common, wanting to be accepted. One by his peers, one by his father. He teaches him how to fight. And now, this reputation that he has to live up to, he has the tools. He's acting a certain way. And then he's watching movies that portray different things, and he's learning how to be a gang member, a gangster, without actually growing up like that. It's how it happens. We talk so passively about the thing. It's hard to explain because I want you to understand. I understand the hustle. I understand the hustle. But we're losing our children. And if we're losing our children, we're losing our adults. And we're losing generation after generation. And Stanley, like me, has been in prison for a long time. But let me get back to how he ended up here, okay? Stanley, he found himself being hunted by the police. They don't necessarily know who it is right now, but they're looking. They're trying to figure out what's going on, and they hear about these gangs that's out there forming. East Siders, this, that, and the third, and all this and that, right? And when you hear about stuff like that, if you're involved in the life, you want to know who's your opposition now. So it's real gangs are starting to try to figure out who these East Siders are and where they come from, who sanctioned them, who this, who that. And listen to me, this is going to sound strange to a lot of you, but see, there is a structure to the creation of a gang. Most gangs come from a city where it was actually founded. People in Tennessee didn't found no gang. They come from California, they come from Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Places like that, where you had these people like Larry Hoover, Tukey, all of these different types of people that started these organizations. And then they migrated and spread out all over the country. And people start to adopt their ways of thinking and ways of doing. So when you get somebody to decide they want to make up their own thing, questions start to get asked. Who are they? Who's sanctioning? What are they about? You feel what I'm saying? Do I have to worry about them? So when he came into the jail, because they caught him and Roger, they caught him up. Listen to me now. They caught him up. And they end up throwing him into the county jail. And now, they thinking they're going to go back to juvenile because they're 17. But see, these folks trying to charge him with an adult crime. So they got him separated from the rest of the people in the jail, the adults. But they go into court trying to charge them as adults. And they are successful in that. Yeah. People in the neighborhood are tired of people just shooting, hurting people for nothing, over petty stuff. Just for nothing. So now they're sitting down in the jail. And people are starting to ask, who are they? These the one, because they put them on TV. See, when they throw it on TV, they said members of the East Side Gang, right? And now these individuals that belong to Bloods, Crips, Vice Lord, GD, all of these different organizations, they start, who is that? Where they come from? Who sanctioned that? They ain't got no answers. They ain't got no answers. See, I was already in the penitentiary when all of this took place. I was already in the penitentiary. And lo and behold, see, Stanley ends up at another prison where I was in communication with a lot of guys there. And I was writing back and forth with these guys back in the day. There wasn't no cell phones and all this and that. We wrote letters and sent cassette tapes, y'all. That's how we communicated. In codes. Yeah, all of that. You know what I mean? And I heard about Stanley. And I heard that he was being confronted by a lot of individuals. They were like, man, what are you on? Where did this come from? And all this and that. He ain't got no answers. He told them the truth. I made it up. But they saw something in it. Right? So what they decided to do was invite him to join a real gang. Oh. Yeah. They invited him to join a real gang. Yeah. And guess what the name of that gang was? Gangster Disciples. So when they invited him to join, he accepted it and he became a member. He became a member. And now he's learning, quote unquote, the real way to be a gangster. And Roger did the same thing. They're learning all of the real things about living that lifestyle. But hold up. It's a trick to this. It's a trick to it. See, do you remember the dude that came into the juvenile facility and told him that he got to get down with him or he got to pay him? Well, guess what? He's a gangster disciple. And hold up, there's more. You remember the dude that said he was going to get both of them back? Right? Well, he's a gangster disciple too. Now, all of a sudden, they're brothers. With the animosity still there, they're brothers. They're brothers. And word starts to spread around the state that these two individuals that put in work and unfortunately shot somebody that had nothing to do with it. Not to say it would have been fortunate if they would have shot the people that had something to do with it, but it's all unfortunate. But for whatever reason, and I hope y'all try to understand and bear with me on this, for whatever reason, that impressed some people. That they were willing to put in work and to do this. And they wasn't even legit. So the individuals that brought them in at this other prison, they felt like they had somebody that could really be counted on to put in work. They were kids though. They were kids. So when they got put out into the population, they were 18. Ready. Reputation preceded them. Reputation preceded them. But they had to get something settled. They had to get something settled. They had a problem with these other two individuals that they had a problem with in Juvenile that happens to be their brothers now. They end up all juveniles at the same facility down west. And it wasn't nothing nice. They would sit down in a room and they were telling them everything that was going on about the situation that they had these disagreements with, and for whatever reason, whoever was in charge decided that they should fight it out. They should fight it out. And they let them all go in a room, two at a time, and they fought. Now, Stanley and Roger, they held their own, right? But it did something to them. It left an imprint on them that this is not love, this is not brotherhood. But it's too late. Where you gonna go now? You done seen the boogeyman up close and personal. You don't get to leave now. You took an oath to it. You took an oath to it. Yeah, you may not have understood what the oath meant, but they're in now. And that's how it happens. That's how it happens. And these brothers now, end up getting transferred to another facility. And then this is where I meet Stanley. Excuse me. When I met Stanley, he had young, green, didn't have a care in the world, angry at the world. Angry. And I sit down and I got to know him a little bit, and he told me his story, basically what I told y'all, how the fight actually happened and all of this and that. And he really just didn't mean to do whatever it was that he did. He was just trying to survive the environment. But now, instead of him being a juvenile delinquent, right, he was a convicted felon. But he still had his whole life in front of him if he wanted it. But he was lost. He didn't know what to do. Now his family, they were there for him, but they didn't know him anymore. So when I would see him in the VG and I'm talking to him, I'm telling him, look, pull at him, talk to him. I really wanted to put him on the bench, but how do I explain this? It would have been worse if I would have put him on the bench. Because those two brothers that him and Roger had gotten into it with, see, they didn't let that go. They never let it go. They were constantly trying to find reason to get them in trouble. See, they had built up a lot of anger and animosity towards both of them, and they wanted their pound of flesh. They wanted something bad to happen to them. And they kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. So I didn't want to put them on the bench. I didn't want them to be left out in the cold. While they were still in rotation, they had the protection of the rules and the laws that governed all of us. See, you put them on the bench, and then brothers going to start to look at them as somebody that abandoned the struggle or couldn't handle it. And then they would start to manipulate the body and get everybody turned against them. And the next thing you know, we're running them in the back, pushing them to the back. Because that's how this goes. And when you're a juvenile delinquent, now they're adults, it gets hard. So let me tell you what happened. So Stanley and Roger, they on the compound, they doing it. They're trying to survive the environment. They decide that they need to get money because they didn't want to keep calling home and getting it from their parents, even though their parents said they would be more than happy to take care of them. They just didn't want them to get in no more trouble. They wanted them to come home as soon as possible, and the only way for them to be able to come home as soon as possible was to stay out of trouble. But what a lot of people don't understand is that when you angry, when you upset, when you lost, you develop vices to try to mask over that. So both of them developed a vice for smoking. Not cigarettes, weed. So they were needing to fix that. And calling home and getting the money from their parents wasn't an option every day. So they decided to get into the thick of the things and start hustling on their own so they could afford to smoke every day. And because they were so young, I would be like, no, stay in school. But again, how can I be the right role model if I'm doing the same thing that they want to do? Nah. So we're pushing, we're trying to get them to understand what's going on, but it's hard to explain to somebody when they look at you and say, you doing it. So in 2002, I quit. I quit smoking. And I watched them ease up on the smoking. They didn't quit all the way, but they eased up on the smoking. I got them working out with me. And I'm constantly talking to them about the other two individuals, this Adam. I'm telling them, you're going to have to be careful. When you get out, walk away from this. Leave it alone, because it's too dangerous. And Stanley wasn't cut out for it anyway. Roger not either. But see, Roger's little background was a little different. So he could kind of deal with what was going on, but Stanley couldn't. The more Stanley worked out, the more he got into it. And this boy, listen to me, he swole up. I'm talking about, listen, it was almost like the weight pile was where he needed to be. He got so big that he was outlifting me. I'll never forget, we were on the incline bench. We got 315 on the incline bench, right? He hitting that thing. That's what we normally warm up with, right? after we do the one play, get the elbows loose. He on that incline, bitch, he hitting that 315. He hit about 10 times. I said, hold up, man. Put that in the rack. So he put that in the rack. I said, man, put something on that thing, man. And he looking, he said, Joe T, you think I can get it? Sounded just like a kid. I said, boy, I'm looking at you. You throwing it like it ain't nothing. Put 345 on there. He hitting that thing. It's a little bit heavier, but he hitting that thing. I said, look, this where you belong right here, man. Lift these weights. Leave that weed alone. Lock in on these weights. Gave him something to focus on. Gave him something to focus on. And he stuck to it. Now Roger was having a harder time because his daddy was still in and out. His daddy was still in and out. And he talking to his dad on the phone, and his daddy is not being the type of dude that he need to be, telling him, you know, I got you, but he ain't got it. And he coming and he talking to me, and I'm telling him, look, I don't want him to understand or believe, rather, I don't want him to believe that his dad ain't straight or nothing like that, right? But I want him to understand that, look, I got you. I got you. I treated him just like I would treat my own. I made sure he had what he needed, but I told him, I need you to quit smoking that weed, bro. I need you to quit smoking that weed. He said, Joe T, I used the weed to forget about all of the stuff I've been through. I said, I get it, but that ain't gonna make you forget. That ain't gonna make you forget. Not at all. So I tried to find something to get him to focus on. And lo and behold, we down in the school one day. I was teacher's aide. We down in the school one day and we were doing math. And this boy gets up on the board and he started doing these math problems. And I'm watching him and he understands this stuff. He had a penchant for it. He was really good at it. So I said, man, you ought to sign up to become a teacher's aide after you get your GED. So he ended up getting his GED and he signed up to be a teacher's aide and they made him a teacher's aide and he really liked it. And he started talking about he wanted to go to school and this and that. When he got out, I said, you got to quit smoking. And he quit smoking. He quit smoking. And when he quit smoking, he really got into it. Brain was clicking on all cylinders. They moved him from one teacher's aide class to another one because he bonded with the guys in a way that the other ones didn't. And if they saw him doing it, like they saw me doing it, then they would want to do it. They were taking advantage of us, but they were doing it in the right way. Now, both of them through smoking. Both of them got different interests. Different interests. Stanley gets out. He gets out. He says he wants to be a personal trainer. He goes, gets his little certificates and all this and that to become a personal trainer, and everything is working out for him just fine. Roger on his way home. But guess what? Them other two dudes done got out too. They trying to get at Stanley. The word come from the big homie to leave him alone. Shut that down or you're going to have to pay consequences for it. They didn't want to hear that. They didn't want to hear that. So they catch him one day coming out of the gym where he was training at. And they catch him and they catch him good. But see, he had gotten so big that even though he didn't throw but one or two punches, it made his mark. He put both of them down. Put both of them down. But he didn't stop when they failed. So he kept beating them until the man that ran the gym ran out there and stopped him. Stopped him. Told him, you can't do this. So the police came. And when the police came, if you're on parole, anytime you have any contact with the police, guess what? You got to call your PO. And it didn't play out well. And if you want to know how this played out, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode because it's coming up. These juvenile delinquents, I want y'all to understand what this is all about, right? This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker.